Hello and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and
Hey,
joining
it's me,
me,
Seated. Sorry, I didn't know how long. The pre-planning phase of the show has really gone down the tubes, I tell you.
what pre-planning phase? Like, you're lucky that I didn't start the Skype call and start recording. That's what it's become.
Yeah, that's true.
But I
That's
wanted to. The problem was I didn't know if I wanted to lead or you to lead because I want to tell people the name of this episode, which is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
oh,
Not
okay.
spelt like you think. Because I come to you this episode with flu, influenza, you see.
Nice. Yeah, it's yet again another sick day at the Decker house.
Jeez. You know what it comes it's because of we were going to I don't know if we had ever informed you of this. So if this is the first time you're hearing about it, sorry. Uh we record on Fridays now because Siege's schedule changed. We still release Monday, Tuesday, but we record on Fridays. And tomorrow, the 23rd of February, I was going to sit down with Siege's brother Zach, my sister Dale, and Dale's friend Joe, and we were going to play through Kingdom Hearts 3 on stream.
Yeah.
Were you aware of this?
No, not at all. I'm very amused that you guys playing these games that like I've been playing for years and have a love and knowledge of, and you guys just not talking to me about them. Both Resident Evil and Kingdom Hearts. As somebody that has like all of the Kingdom Hearts, I have the mangas.
So that's very funny because we've been playing the only reason that Kingdom Hearts even entered the conversation is because your brother bought the like 10 game set on
hmm
the PlayStation.
Yeah,
Because he's like, I've never played these. I want to play these. And then,
and then he found out half of them were movies, not games. But yeah,
but we were going to do Kingdom Hearts 3 because, it seemed like a fun thing. And like, your brother's here now, so we can do like a big stream like that.
hmm
But to get ready for it, we sat down on Tuesday night, myself, Dale, and her friend Joe, and I streamed Resident Evil 2 to like get camera angles set and lighting and all this. Come to find out, both Joe and Dale had the flu that night. The difference being Dale had flu type A and Joe had flu type B.
so you didn't stand a chance.
Yeah, exactly. Luckily, I caught the rarer of the two. I have shiny influenza right now.
Oh, shiny. That
It's a
sounds so
Pokemon
nice.
reference. It's how I'm dealing with the fact that I have the flu.
Yeah, you make it sound so cute and bearable.
Well, I caught it. Like I kept saying, I caught the flu. I caught the flu, and I'm like, what else do you catch? Pokemon.
There's not another thing on that list. There are only two things you can catch in this world: diseases and Pokemon.
It's
Are
fish, but
Pokemon just diseases?
they might be. Some
Oh my
are.
God,
Come on, like blah, blah, what is it? The one.
Gengar and all them?
Like they're poison ghosts.
Right,
They're
right.
basically germ clouds.
They're just germ clouds just floating around.
I was
Oh
thinking
man,
about like coughing and wheezing, but they also have like a hard center.
yeah.
It's
I've
not.
I've
It's,
caught Gangaria.
everything is
Oh,
Pokemon. Like
yes.
Trubbish. That's kind of like that's a disease.
Oh God. Trubbish sounds like something that you get on your foot when you walk through like water in the woods. Yeah. I was I was in the Appalachians and I was walking through too many puddles. I got Trubbish all over my feet.
Yeah, that's okay, man. I'm just getting over a case of Raichu. I know that's not like that doesn't look like a bug or a virus, but it worked for me calling it Raichu. I mean, Paris are crabs. Slept with this girl. I got a whole infestation of Paris right now.
Are there people in the Pokemon universe that like adamantly are against like the catching of Pokemon and the integration of them into the world? Like are there like anti-Pokemon like factions in the Pokemon world? Is that something that's ever addressed?
A lot of the time, this like so there are the teams, right? Like your Team Rocket in the first two, and then it
Right, right.
becomes Aqua or Magma and all this other BS. But most of them seek to gain power through like Pokemon.
Right.
Like
Right. They
there
help you
are no
enslave
Hermione
Pokemon, right?
Grangers in the Pokemon universe, as far as I know.
Mm. Okay.
That would be an interesting story. But the weird thing is it only Pokemon, or are there also like just regular dogs?
Are there also regular animals in the Pokemon universe? Yeah, man, that's a question I've had for a while. I mean, but it's a twist on the Disney question, right? Like, how do dogs work in the Disney universe? How do animals work in the Pokemon universe?
We've
I
covered how
mean,
dogs work in the Disney universe.
we solved that equation. Now let's work on this one. Yeah, man. I mean, my solid answer has to be no, right?
The answer is definitely no. Because
Yeah.
there are people who are like, check out my Meowth, and it's like, oh, that's cool. You have an anthropomorphic cat just walking around your house.
Oh yeah, there's
That's-
no way that there's other animals in this world because like also like my big thing is actually the insects. There cannot be other insects in this world because I think they straight up address the fact that certain insect type Pokemon are responsible for things like pollination and things like that.
yeah.
So like there's no need for other insects. So it's not necessarily that there's like solid proof there's no other animals. There's just there seems to be no need for other animals to exist, and part of evolution is the is necessity, right? Like so.
All I know is I would really like to find the meteorite that separates our world from the Pokemon world.
Like, at what point did the history split? Yeah, yeah,
Because they, like, literally all it is in Pokemon is that the first person who saw a non-human, right? And
yeah.
there's even like human-esque Pokemon. Like, there are people who just have Machamps in their house. Like, I live with this guy.
Yep.
He doesn't talk. Got
He
four
doesn't talk,
arms.
but he takes care of things. He cuts the wood for me. Like, that's the kind of shit that they do. I bring home, like rice and bacon to feed him, and he makes sure that we've got firewood every night. And it's a fine trade-off.
But the
It's
first,
actually a pretty utopian society.
in a lot of ways, yeah, like you only have one bad group
Hmm.
as either Team Rocket or whatever.
Right.
There's not a lot, and also like everybody just follows the rule that like don't throw a Pokeball at my Pokemon.
Yeah, right, right. Everybody's just kind of down with the idea that like, nope, that's his. You can't capture somebody else's. Man, yeah.
But
Pokemon law would be weird too.
I'd like to see Phoenix Wright cross over with Pokemon. I mean, that's Detective Pikachu is going to address a lot of these problems that we're bringing up. The movie, not the game,
That's
because
glorious, actually.
that's going to be like a real world look at Pokemon.
Right.
Like, what does Officer Jenny actually do?
Right, right.
It's Nurse
What laws is she
Yeah.
enforcing? Yeah.
Nurse Joy, Officer Jenny. Yeah, sorry. Woo, Pokemon.
No, you got that
questions.
right.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
wanted to make sure. Because then I'm like, and Nurse Jenny, and I'm like, they just all named Jenny. Is that the
Yeah.
bit? No,
Well, and
it's a Nurse Joy. So
I mean, if you want to start getting into my love of like Pokemon lore, like really what this goes down to, you're wondering where like the meteor point is. This isn't it, but like you have to go beyond this point. Is that there's the three Pokemon gods that basically like create the universe for Pokemon, or at least in their lore, right? Like in their understanding of the universe, which for us, I think you could equate to like, Titans or gods in that sense. So like at least that far back, as far back as we have the history of like the Titans and the Greek gods and all this stuff, at least that far back they have lore that goes. So it has to be even further than that, right? So it's pretty far back. I mean, is this the world in which dinosaurs didn't die? Like, and
well, yeah,
people
because
evolved alongside dinosaurs, and then like you just have the
so
evolution.
so you're questioning, is this Dino Hatton split?
Right, right, yes. Is that Rex there? It's with Whoopi Goldberg? What's the name of
Oh
that one?
Jesus! No, Dino Hatton is Super Mario
It's from
Brothers.
the Mario Brothers, the live action movie. I
Yeah,
know.
okay.
But I'm wondering I'm trying to remember what the joke name of because they all have those stupid names. What it is in Theodore Rex with Whoopi Goldberg there. The
I think
movie's so
it's
bad they had
like
to sue her to make it
It might be New York.
New York.
I think like that's one of the first places that was used.
Nice.
Or it's weird. But the thing is, the big difference between our world and Pokemon world is the first person who saw like an animal in their world was like, that's a Pokemon, not that's an animal.
Oh no. Oh shit.
Like
Oh
that's
god.
really what it comes down to.
Yeah, it's really just a matter of language.
Yeah. That's all it is. And it's like, what the fuck is a Pokemon, George? And he's like, that little pocket monster thing.
That monster so small it could fit in your pocket. I dub it a Pokemon.
Or Or were they called animals up until the point that the Pokeball was invented? And that is when they started calling them Pokemon.
So what came first, the Pokemon or the Pokeball?
Definitely the Pokemon, but they weren't Pokemon. They were the Poke. Okay, so we're all just talking conjecture right now, but I have a firm belief that in the timeline of Pokemon, they were animals until they developed the Pokeball. And that is when, like, nomenclature, like, people started calling any animal that was caught in a Pokeball a Pokemon. And then just through language and, like, the evolution of species, they just started calling all animals Pokemon.
Oh,
Because
see,
anything
I
can be put in
disagree.
a ball.
I think the product is named after the thing. I think they were like, we need a way to catch these Pokemon, and they were like, well, let's invent this ball to put them in. We'll call it a Pokeball. I think that animals, if they existed in the universe at any point, at any time, right? I think that they evolved into Pokemon, and they were like, man, all these Pokemon, we've got to figure out how to like handle this problem, right? Like, and so I think that's where the
So I
Pokeball comes from.
understand your brand name recognition there,
Yeah.
but a Pokeball is the base. And it's not a super Pokeball, it's a Super Ball or an Ultra Ball. Like, so I sort of disagree with that way of thinking. I think that animals became slang known as Pokemon. Because they were probably just called capture balls. And then Silphco, I don't know how I know this much about Pokemon. It's like
That's the best part. Is how much knowledge after like 20 years of this shit that
it's
we've
still
actually like taken in, man.
well, I became the champion of the Johto League this week. I finished a run of Pokemon Crystal. I still have to go all around Kanto and collect those badges, but I did it. It was sloppy. It was the sloppiest like road to champion ever. A lot of luck. A lot of luck involved. I finally realized why the move Roar is important. Because I fought Lance at the very end of the game. Spoilers for a 20-year-old game at this point. And I used Roar against his Gyarados in the beginning. So that it was just his Gyarados alive at the end. And I literally killed it with like a level 24 Pidgey.
Does Roar paralyze or does it
Roar forces another Pokemon to come out.
Right, okay.
It swaps Pokemon.
It's quote unquote squares off the other one. Yeah.
So I did that. I roared, and then it brought out his strongest Pokemon. So then, like, even though my Feraligatr, was 10 levels lower than him, he was strong enough at the beginning of the fight to, like, tank the damage and beat him. So that's, I mean, like, I would probably not be considered a noble trainer.
Yeah, man, but that's strats.
That.
That's good. I mean, you were using strategy. I mean, maybe you weren't thinking about the love and care of your Pokemon, which every trainer should do, but that's fine.
They all have names. Isn't that enough? Is it enough that Feraligatr is Cage Rule and my Pidgey is Master P?
You can't just name them. You have to then care for them. You have to make sure that when you fight with them, you fight with respect.
Oh, I mean, that's a good point. So, like, smash and fast forward on my emulator, is that fighting with respect? But yes, I don't know how we got here from where we were. But I streamed Resident Evil 2, and that was a good time. And also, don't think that, like, Resident Evil 2 is what got me into Resident Evil, Sejin. I was not into the series before. You know that I struggled with Resident Evil 4.
Yeah. Yep.
You know that it is still sitting in my PlayStation, like, please finish me. You finished my remade older brother. And I'm like, yeah, I did. You know why? Because it's not terrible.
Yeah, I'm surprised 4 is the one you went to after that, not 7.
Well, to be fair, I own 4 already.
Yeah.
And I told you 2 years ago that I would play through 4. I still haven't
I'm
done
impressed
it.
by your noble attempt to try.
The fact that I beat the first boss, like the water creature thing,
Hmm.
That's further than I ever thought I would get in Resident Evil 4. The fact that I shot all the little blue medallions. I don't know why I did that. I got a gun, I think, but I love Resident Evil 2. I got an S plus that night streaming with Dale and Joe, and
Fantastic.
both of them fell asleep while we were streaming. But
Good stream.
we
That's a
didn't
good
know we
stream.
didn't know that they had the flu at the time.
Yeah. It's a little weird. They're like sweaty and passing out next to me. Oh well.
Mr. X.
I'm just gonna lick each of their foreheads before I go to sleep.
Hey, sleep tight.
Oh God. Oh man, so you guys are on lockdown, huh?
Well, yeah, basically. The place where we went, the only reason I got checked was because the doctor that checked Dale was like, anyone else you were with, I would recommend that they come in and get checked unless they got a flu shot. So I'm like, I'm still not going to go in and get checked, right? Because I don't think I caught it from Dale. But then Joe went, because Joe, he had like a stuffy nose all Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And when he called up and he's like, so I also have the flu, I'm like, well, damn, I need to go get checked now. Because I was sat in between them playing a video game.
Nice.
And I get to the doctor, I'm like, so you saw my sister and you saw her roommate yesterday. She's like, yeah, so you have the flu. And I'm like,
Thanks.
she's like, we're going to test you. They do a really cool test where they tickle the inside of your nose. And then apparently what that collects can tell them if you have the flu or not.
Weird. Very
Magic.
weird. Yeah.
But she's like, but before we get the test back, clinically, I'm going to say you have the flu, especially if I saw two people you spent an extended period of time with and told them they have the flu.
Well, yeah, and one of the things that people tend to forget is that you can have a disease and maybe not ever have the symptoms show up, right? Like so like that's where we start to talk about things like carriers and all that shit. And it's where the whole like vaccination conversation really kind of takes off is because people who are like I never get the flu and it's like, well, no. What you probably do is you probably never show signs of it, but you probably carry the flu a lot, and then you pass it off to a bunch of people because you don't get vaccinated, dum dum. Like it's part of that whole conversation of all disease, where it's just like just because you never show the symptoms of a disease doesn't mean you don't get it, right? So she could very well have just been like, look, at this point you are a carrier, and like it may never pop up as a symptom for you, but anybody you come into contact with now is going to possibly be a carrier. You play Pandemic, you know how this goes.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, is like that's the real reason I went, is because I don't feel sick right now, but if I have the flu, I should isolate myself so that I don't get other people sick, especially my father, because of his treatments for his cancer. His immune system is
Compromised.
compromised.
Yeah.
So it's like, and yes, he got the flu shot, but that doesn't mean the flu shot is not always effective, especially considering I have like influenza shiny B, and he might have it might like be strong against A but weak against some types of influenza B.
Right.
So like I do it, but my favorite thing is as I'm leaving, I'm like, so I'm gonna go to the walk-in before I go to work today, and then I might be home because if I have the flu, I'm gonna treat it. And he's like, you're not sure what his symptoms are; they might turn you away. And I'm like, but I'm only going for you.
Yeah. He's not entirely wrong. Like, considering the way that some clinics have to be run because, they have too many patients and not enough doctors in this world, that kind of stuff does happen. But in terms of encouraging our listeners to go take care of some shit if they need to, like definitely, and for you, like one of the first things you say to them is, "I have somebody with a compromised immune system in the house,
right? That
and
was
they
like,
won't turn you away."
right, that was in my chamber. But the first thing I said to the girl was, so a person that I live with and a person that I work with came in yesterday, and they both have the flu.
Yeah.
So I figured I should get checked. And she's like, yeah, you should. And I'm like, oh, thank you. I had like other reasons why I should get checked, but I'm glad that me saying that. The other thing is, and this is the other reason why I wanted to get myself checked, is because there is someone in our age group who has died because of the flu. And it was only publicized because she was an anti-vaxxer and anti-universal health care. And even though she had health
God.
care and the ability to get vaccinated, she still died.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what Alanis should sing about. That's actual irony.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean it's terrible shit, man. So like, if you're in that position, get yourself checked. The
Yeah,
end, right?
that's
Moral of the
exactly where
story.
it comes down to. That's why one flew over the cuckoo's nest.
There it
It's been in my
is.
damn head. Like, I haven't really done much of anything since I've had it. I caught up on shows that like I had let pile up on the DVR, and I
Yeah.
beat The Legend of Zelda, which turned 33 years old on the 21st of February.
Very nice. Very
So
nice.
that's a great game that I did not know how much I remembered.
You like old school like OG Legend of Zelda?
The original Legend of Zelda, released on February 21st, 1986.
Fantastic, man.
I
Yeah, it's a weird
I
animal, huh?
flew through the first 7 dungeons, and I'm just
Nice.
like, how do I remember this stuff?
Yeah, your brain works in mysterious ways. I mean, yours
Yeah.
specifically.
No, I understand that it's mine specifically, and then I get into Death Mountain, and I'm like, I kind of know what's going on here. But then, like, I'm gonna just look at a map because I'm pretty sure I'm doing this right, but I'm annoyed at this point.
Was that the
Everything
one
else
that
is easy.
the juniors were having the argument about the egg on not an argument, but the discussion about the egg on the mountain and whether or not Death Mountain
No,
is
that's
like
Link's Awakening. That's the
oh
one
okay.
that's
Yeah,
being
yeah.
remade on the Switch.
Was that two
That's four.
technically?
That's the
Four?
fourth one, released in 1993, possibly 94, but I'm pretty sure it's 93. For the Game Boy, where it's all a dream and
Right.
you can't get mad. Here's a rule from the Say Report going forward, because Link's Awakening is being remade for the Switch. You can't get mad if people tell you that it's a dream, because the name of the game in Japan is Link's Dream Adventure. That's what it translates to.
I mean, it's also a 35-year-old game at this point, or a
It
25 year
can't
old
be
game at this point.
35
So,
years old because the first one is only 33.
when was 1993?
It's got to be 26.
26. Yeah, yeah. So like, yeah. So yes, I also you can't be mad about spoilers for a game that's that old. I mean, it's like being mad about a remake of a movie and not knowing the ending to it. It's just like, yeah, but we all know that Neo's the one, guys. Relax.
I mean, it's right there in his name.
I mean, yeah, it's practically thrown in your face the whole fucking movie. Yeah. But the Wachowskis are so
Yes.
smart.
They're so clever. Look at that. They took the O and they put it at the end of it to be another word. They could have.
Oh,
They should have called him Eno. No one would
Eno.
have gotten it if his name was Eno.
no.
That's just the
Somewhere there's a
one
world where
backwards.
that's his name.
But
Oh my God.
that's it in Pokemon. That's the name of the main character in the Matrix. I'm Eno.
Enomon. Oh. Wow. All right, man. Well,
So what do you have to bring to the table?
I went to go see the second Lego movie this week, and it was it was a pretty groovy experience, I gotta tell you. I found a new place to go see some movies, and I don't know how often I'm gonna be able to get to it because it's only a two-screen theater, so like it really kind of depends on what's gonna be playing there. But it's one of those like it's called Broovies, so it's one of those bar within a movie theater within a bar type situations, right? And we went to go check out this place because like uh, we're always trying to find like new stuff out here. I cannot believe I found a place like this. It's imagine like the most dirt floor dirty bar, right? And then imagine like the East Providence cinemas, the like dirt cinema,
The
right?
Dirt Theater,
It's
yes.
it's like somebody smashed those two together and then said, "Hold my beer. We're gonna make this just a little bit dirtier." It's like that is the situation with at least the breweries. There's two of them out here, so at least the one that we went to, and it was kind of charming as fuck, man. Like we showed up and I mean they were these girls behind the bar that were just like slinging shit at each other and like screaming at their boss and all that sort of stuff, and they handed us a couple of menus that were covered in beer, and when we tried to order like the first three things we tried to order, they're like, "Yeah, we don't have that anymore." So it's just like, okay. All right, good menu. And then but the thing is that they then run down what they did have, and like they had some good shit, some really good pub food. We ended up getting, some basics like quesadillas and chicken fingers and shit, but it was amazing. Like, and then on top of that, the beer. Oh my God, they just had so many good local beers, and I don't remember if Will and I talked about this while we were recording or not when he did his little recording that was a while back. But his whole thing is Salt Lake City is known around the world as the
As the
only place.
fairest place to get a
Yeah,
drink.
it's the only place to get a fair drink
Yeah.
because they have to measure out so much of the alcohol. And while he's not wrong about that, I will always quickly point out, yeah, but the amount of alcohol you're going to get in your drink sucks. So yeah, you're always going to get that 2 ounces of alcohol in that drink when you order it, but you ain't ever going to get like more than 2 ounces in that drink, which is the worst part. So like, so finding a place that has somehow done the legal work to figure out how in Utah to do this. They serve like full strength beers and stuff like that, and it's amazing. So we were actually sitting there in a bar for the first time since I got here. Like I think actually like just sitting at a bar, just drinking full strength beer. That was awesome. We found a couple of other places that can do like liquor and stuff, but they have to go up their own ass to do it. Like they have to hide where the food is. You have to make sure that you express an interest in eating food before you can order full strength. They have to call themselves a bar. They can't call themselves a restaurant. Like there's all sorts of weird like shit they've got to do. And this place, I can't tell if they figured that all out and they're playing the game right or if they're just like fuck it, right? So we're sitting
Sundance
there.
happens in this state. Movies are
Yeah, yeah.
sacred.
Yeah, exactly, right. So these guys, so it's this dirt bar, dirt theater, right? So we order these drinks. We're sitting there and eating food. We get into the theater, and we're the only ones there. And there's another couple outside, but the other movie that's playing is like a romantic comedy. And so I don't know. Tess was worried. She's just like, I think they're gonna be in here with us because like that other movie's probably like already going, not full, all this other crap. And then all of a sudden. I walk out to go get more drinks, and they're definitely going into that other theater. So I run back in, and I'm like, Tess, we're the only ones watching this movie. We've got to redo everything because we had specifically picked out like middle seats in the theater so that we could sit here and watch this thing, and and I'm like, we got to figure that we got to reconfigure because. On my way out to get those drinks, I realized the entire back row of the theater is just old couches and coffee tables. And I'm like, we have this entire theater to ourselves. There's a fuck ton of couches back there with like coffee tables and shit. We should just order a bunch of drinks, sit in the back, and just like lounge out on these couches because we're the only ones here. We can be obnoxious, we can talk to each other, and we can like have a good time, right? So I order the biggest drink that they can get me, this like 22 ouncer like that they've got of their home brew that they that they sell at this place. I grabbed a couple of like ciders and shit. We moved a coffee table up close in front of us, and we had just it was just covered in beer and alcohol, and we're like lounging out on this couch with like we're each laying out on our own, right? And then and then we got to watch the movie. And like halfway through the movie, Tesla just passes out. Like it was just fine. Like it was we also had to go to like a late showing because of, the new work schedule and stuff. So we didn't start the movie until like 10 o'clock. And so about 11 o'clock rolls around and Tesla's just gone. She's out like a light. And I'm just sitting there just enjoying the hell out of myself, watching the new Lego movie in this empty ass theater on this couch in the back with like all of this really good alcohol around me. It was a pretty good experience, I gotta say.
Sounds good. Sounds
Yeah, man.
sounds worth it. Because I go to the Route One Cinema Pub. That
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that is my extent of things like that,
Hmm.
and I like going there. But the last experience we saw Harry Potter: The Crimes of Grindelwald,
Oh,
which
yeah.
awesome. That movie was so good.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm
but
glad to hear it. It's the first Harry Potter movie that I did not see on like an opening night in a while.
oh, you
And
should
I
have
and I
because you
yeah.
you missed out because the hype was not there for that movie, and I understand why because I hated Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Yeah.
But Crimes of Grindelwald, legit excited for the next one.
Cool.
But that one, it's like cafeteria seating, where it's
Mm.
just like rows of tables and rolly chairs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so we sit down, we got there at our time, we sat down, we're fine. But then on the next row over sits down a family of 8. And it's like, those kids do not want to be in this movie right now. And they didn't. They were rolling around, running their chairs and riding them during the movie
Ugh.
and like on phones and stuff. And I'm like, whatever. I don't care. Because this place, the Route 1 Cinema Pub does bacon cheeseburger egg rolls.
Ooh, hell yeah.
And they are incredible. And they come with a secret sauce to dip it in that is literally just ketchup and mayonnaise combined.
Fantastic.
Is the
That's
best. There's
uh
nothing better.
that is the basis for fry sauce out here. You know that,
No,
right?
yeah, I
That
know
ketchup
that.
and I
That's
mean, there's more ingredients in fry sauce, but that is like the basis for it. So it's I love that people treat that as like a secret sauce out in the East, because out here they straight up sell it in Walmart.
yeah, they say that, and I'm like, what? This is just ketchup and mayonnaise. It can't be anything else. There's nothing else you're going to serve with bacon cheeseburger egg rolls that like mayo chup.
I will tell you that the next step, and again, this is not the entire recipe, but the next step is to then add a little bit of pickle juice and maybe some relish, so
Yeah,
that
so
you
that
get.
just becomes Thousand Island. I
Mhm.
don't want to be that guy, but fry sauce sounds like Thousand Island dressing.
No, like I said, there's other ingredients in it as well, but yeah. Also, Thousand Island has some other ingredients in it as well than just those three ingredients.
I mean, but basically, if you can't find a bottle of Thousand Island, mix ketchup, mayonnaise, and relish,
Yeah.
and the little pickle flakes in the relish. Those are the Thousand Islands.
And there you have basically a Big Mac sauce. But anyway,
Shh, we don't want to get Super McDonald's again.
oh man. But yeah, man, I don't know. It was kind of charming and nice to find a place that was kind of on my level. I think that's the thing that really kind of threw me for a loop is, everything out here is so nice. And like and I can't complain about that. Like everything is handled really well. So like we've been going to the movies, and I've told you guys already about like going to see like Mary Poppins with my family, and like having like the lounge chairs, right? Or and getting to like move my seat back, and not have to worry about people in front of me and all this great stuff. And that's a great way to go see like movies in general. But there's just sometimes when you just want to just like go to a movie and just like, I don't know, it doesn't need to be a fancy affair, and I appreciate that I can actually find a place like that. I think that's one of the things that I miss without even realizing it, that I really miss about places like the East Providence, like Dirt Theater that you guys get to still go to, right? Is that choice to like, hey, I want to go to a movie, but I don't need to make a big thing out of it. Like there are times when I want to make a big thing out of it, but not today, and having that option again is really comforting. So that was really cool.
I
And
don't
so
think
like,
I ever want to make a big thing of it. That is
yeah,
something I do not understand. Like, I just want to see the movie. I really more care about the people than where I'm seated. And it kind of bums me out because the last time I went to the Dirt Theater in East Providence was not a good experience
yeah.
because they redid the chairs and the chairs are awful. Because
They're
they're
always it's like the third or fourth time in its existence that they've completely ripped out all the seating and tried new seating in that place, which is weird to me. Of all of the things for them to work on,
because the
why?
chairs that they had before, like the crappy little maroon ones,
Yeah,
they were perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, I felt like I'm sitting in a high school auditorium, but like that's sort of what I'm doing. Like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I
yeah.
should feel like. I shouldn't feel like, and they don't go back, right? Like the maroon ones didn't go back, but that was okay because they didn't encompass your whole body. They went
Right.
to like right below your shoulder blades, and that's fine, right? Because you're sitting up straight and you're watching a movie, you're learning a lesson from Colonia. I don't know, it's just like the most lessony movie I saw there ever. Um, so we are going back to the East Providence Theater. I'm sorry you're gonna miss it, but Escape Room is finally coming to the East Providence 10. So we, meaning myself, Dale, your brother, and whoever else we can round up until we have a posse of 8, are going to finally complete going to see Escape Room and then solving an escape room,
Nice.
or vice versa.
I would suggest you see Escape Room first, and then you wash the bad taste out of your mouth by going to an actual escape room with your friends.
Have you seen Escape Room? Or are you
Also,
just
you will.
assuming?
I am assuming, I will be fair. But also you'll be able to make great jokes about the movie you just saw while you're in the escape room.
Yeah, I that was sort of my plan, was to see the movie then solve the escape room, because I think one of the issues with doing the escape room and then trying to see the movie as we tried on my birthday was once we did an escape room, we're like, no, we don't. Why would we want to watch a movie about what we just did?
Yeah, yeah.
That
It's almost like, well, yeah, if you go to the movie first, it's almost like getting a preview for what you're about to do.
is like, oh man, I hope it goes better for us than it did for them.
And you will have to honestly tell me what you think about that movie because I still get the impression that that movie is just like just a fucking downer, which is not the fucking point of escape rooms. Like I would be much more interested in that movie if it was like 80s adventure teen style, you know what I mean? Like we had talked about that night of
Yeah,
like those horror movies that they used to make where like people were kind of in it together. And like yeah, people got killed, but like you felt something when they got killed because even though they were like the asshole in the group, they were still part of the group, right? Like Evil Dead's the perfect example of this because it's like the progenitor of the types and all that shit. But like even when the asshole in that movie gets gagged by the girl in the basement, like it's actually like kind of this like shocking moment, not because you didn't see it coming, but because like, well, that's the jock down. Like, damn it, like you're actually concerned because they've lost like an important part of the team, you know?
I do. I know exactly what you mean, and yeah, that's the thing. So I will report back. I don't know when we're gonna do it. It's gonna be soonish.
Hmm.
Because I can't imagine that's gonna be at the East Providence 10 very long.
Yeah, right.
So as soon as we do it, I will report back my findings, and I look forward to it. But
Fantastic.
also, I think having done an escape room to bring it back to Resident Evil, because you're not getting away from it, Sejin,
Hmm.
because you're going to tell the story that you
Uh-huh.
told us yesterday
No, no,
on the
I'm
podcast.
not trying to hide it. Yeah, go for it.
I think
Uh,
one of the reasons why I liked that game was because the new one just sort of feels like an escape room to me, especially with like the letter locks,
mhm.
because that's like how escape rooms work. Like we've hidden a word in here that
Well, I don't think that I don't think that's by accident, man. And that's the thing is like that is what the first one and the second one and Nemesis to a point. Nemesis is when you start to really kind of see them pull away from more of the like puzzly horror aspects and start to work more towards like the horror action. And then eventually with five, you just see straight up just it just becomes like a stupid action game. Um, but like I don't think that that's I think they do a really good job of recapturing that when they in the remake because that was one of the things that was really kind of missing from for me from the last few Resident Evils, including seven to a point. Seven definitely had its moments, especially all the stuff with Lucas. I know you haven't played seven, but there's some, I, and I think like I think we have to thank Saw, in all honesty, for like getting for helping Resident Evil kind of get back to its like weird, puzzly, scary roots. Because I think that with the Saw franchise kind of blowing up and becoming the monster that it has become and still is, like it's going to be around forever now. I think that that allowed the makers of Resident Evil to be like, oh, we can still make a scary game with puzzles in it and people will still buy it. Because for a long time, I think the thinking was we can't make Resident Evil games like we used to because that's not what people are into anymore. And then, you know, like I said, Saw came along and proved that wrong. And so like, yeah, no, for sure. Like the escape room elements of Resident Evil, you know, I think they feed each other because I think that like the the very first Resident Evil game with its puzzle elements and all that stuff was definitely based on like stuff that had come before it. I won't say that they created the idea of the puzzly horror like feel, right? But but since that, I know for a fact that that's what people go looking for. You know, I once knew a girl in high school that decided that she wanted to have a Resident Evil birthday party, and so her friends designed what we now know to be like an escape room setup for her house that was all Resident Evil based. And like a lot of her friends didn't quite get it, and they were actually rather bored with it, but she fucking loved it. And I think now, if somebody said to them like, "I want to do a Resident Evil style escape room birthday," I think people would all be in on it now that people kind of get it, right? Um, but like I think that that is definitely on purpose, and I'm glad that you feel that way because to me, that is what Resident Evil. That's like one of the things at the heart of a good Resident Evil game is that puzzly aspect, and so I love that you latched onto that.
well, that I mean that's what I like. I like a good puzzle, and I
Hmm.
also really enjoy because like Dale played it for an hour. Like she gave it the old college try. Then she's like, I don't really like the horror or the survival elements. Love the puzzles. Hate these other two things. And I'm like, that's fine. But one of the things that she lamented is, how come they can't just like give me the answers to the puzzles somewhere? And both me and your brother, because we were watching our stream, were like, they do.
They
You're
very much
just
do.
not looking where you're supposed to look right now. Like,
Yeah, that's weird because I actually think one of the things about the Resident Evil games that I think as much as it kind of created this idea of like the puzzle horror video game, I think they also are very easy puzzles. And part of that is because they're very quick to give you the answers. Two, even more than one. Like one, there's you got to go looking for answers in different places. Two, they straight up give you a notebook with all of the answers in it. Like spoiler alert, I guess, but you get that notebook in the first 10 minutes and they show you it, but you essentially get the answer to basically every puzzle. Like there's a couple of moments later on where you can find further clues to get like, oh, this is how I get this piece in order to do this part of this puzzle. But essentially, they give you the answer up front. It's really weird. It's really weird for a game that is supposed to be so based on like stress. And I guess maybe that's part of it. Is like they give you half answers right away. I don't know.
well, that's one of the things I really like is in the first one they give you like that thing. They like tell you everything in the A story, except for like when you get to the final one to like get a medallion, the stuff is like scratched and stuff, so it's not as easy as just like matching up. Like you need to figure out what it was before,
right.
like because you blow something up in the room, and I'm like, I want to believe that that explosion is what damaged the mechanism.
Yeah. That's pretty funny.
But then in the second run, when you do the other side of it, you
Hmm.
still find that notebook, but you only have half of of the puzzles.
Right.
And then you have to find the page that was ripped out,
Hmm.
like elsewhere in it. And then even further, you need to find and develop a film roll that has
Yeah.
it in the background set to what it is for the third one.
Right.
So they made it a little bit different in like how they give you the answers, but also made it more difficult. But there was no point where I'm like, but I know that the answer exists somewhere for me to find.
Right.
And that is why it bothers me that you were too scared to play the game.
Oh man. So yeah, I wussed out. I'm not gonna hide it, but like I'm not wussed out to the point where I'm never gonna touch it again. Like I'm not so scared I can't play Resident Evil 2. I am so scared that I need to play it. Like I love the sense of fear. I don't remember the last time I'm trying to think of the last like horror game that I played where it scared me so immensely that I had to like put it down for a bit. And I don't know, it might be like the Resident Evil 1 remake. I'm just trying to think of like any other scary games I've ever really kind of played to completion. Amnesia, like playing through Amnesia was pretty cool the first time, and there was definitely moments where after a while I was like, okay, I need a break from this, but it was never so immediate and it was never so intense, I think, as the other night when I was playing through 2. I was so I did the Leon story first because I mean I don't know, to me the Leon story is the A story in that game. Like what happens to Leon in that game is so much more important, and maybe that's because of everything that comes after Resident Evil 2, that I know, like Claire comes back in some of the weirder offshoot games, but like Leon becomes one of the main, like besides Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield, Leon Kennedy, like you could argue is the main guy of the Resident Evil games, right? And so there's the sense to me that that has always been the A plot, and that what Claire puts up with Sherry and Irons and all this stuff is very much like good background stuff and great stuff to dig into once you know what's happened to the rest of the story. But now that so I did Leon first, moral of the story there, right? And so I go into Leon's story, and very first thing is like the gas station, which I don't remember if the gas station is from the original game.
It is not.
I know,
It was added
yeah,
as a
I
semi-tutorial.
yeah, because I think that you in the first game, you pretty sure that you meet up with Claire like on the streets of Raccoon City, like you're already in the city, and some shit goes down, and then you find your way into the police station, and the explosion is still part of it. Like the idea that him and Claire get separated, before they go into the station in their own separate ways, right? Like that's definitely all still part of the original. So yeah, getting there, and the very first thing that they throw at me is, well, first of all, that cutscene with the trucker is beautifully done. It's one of the most like tropey ass like horror movie beginning scenes ever, but it's beautifully done. It shows off the new engine so well with like the sloppy burger and the bite and all that stuff, and then like the focus I think is actually something that's really really cool that they play with. You know, they could never do that in the original because polygons just they could never work them that way.
Right.
Um, but the way that they play with focus in this game, and so like the focus on him with her getting up in the background with a blur behind him is a huge thing, right? And it's funny to me that you mentioned even in like the photograph, like seeing things in the background and that being how you solve puzzles. Like I can't imagine trying to do that and looking at low poly counts anymore. I think that's something that really only kind of works in this high definition like RA that they have now. Um, and so yeah, so that was just amazing. And then going through and doing this essentially new part of the story with the gas station, right? Um, but what was also throwing me was that in the middle of all of this, I'm like losing my mind, freaking out because these guys are all starting to come at me now for the first time. And then all of a sudden, I see one of the greatest jokes I've ever seen in Resident Evil history: the ice cream machine in the gas station. Did you even pick up on it?
Herbs make you feel better.
Yeah, I saw that and I lost my shit. And
It's very good.
I'm like cackling maniacally as I'm trying to like run away from these guys. And I'm like, those assholes threw a joke at me in the middle of me trying to figure out like how to survive. Like because I don't know. I never got a sense in the original version of RE2 of a horde. Like there was definitely moments where there was maybe too many guys for me to handle, but it was never a horde. And they throw it at you immediately in this game. Like the idea that there's going to be times when there's 4 or 5 guys after you and your best bet is to just run, right? Like you're not going to be able to kill everybody. There's not enough bullets for you to kill everybody. So just go. And yeah, so I'm in the middle of that, and then I see that stupid joke, and I'm losing my crap, and I run outside, and of course there's Claire, right? And so that's a great moment, and that is the shot of Resident Evil 2 is Claire meeting Leon for the first time, and her like thinking he's gonna shoot her, and then he shoots the zombie behind her. Again, tropey as hell, but still like this beautiful moment for the two of them. And then man. It didn't get any easier from there, man. Like every time they threw a situation at me, I was just like I I I kept telling myself that I wasn't ready for it, but I don't think that my body believed me. My body was just like, it's Resident Evil 2. You know it, like you know it. And so every time something happened that was unexpected or in a new way, I just completely lost my shit. So they do such a good job of making that game worth playing as somebody that like played through the original and like I've been sitting around reading the novelization of the original one in anticipation for this remake. Like I've got the SD Perry books that they wrote. Like they did an entire like 7 or 8 book series about Resident Evil, and they cover all of the games as well as a bunch of like side stories. And so like I was so invested in this story, and I know where things go and where they come from, but the moments that they're still able to throw at you are just amazing, you know? And I do think that like there's just a lot of dumb humor in it. I know that Zach pointed out on Junior, or at least in the group with us, pointed out like the stupid jokes they make about like the fat guy at the vending machine. And like, yeah, it's a stupid, bad joke. But that's exactly the kind of shit where like you're in the middle of again running away from like a horde. You finally jump through that window, and then you see this guy just bang on a vending machine. And there's never a moment where you think it's not a zombie, but Leon's reaction in the moment where he thinks it's not a zombie is, I think, the funniest. Where he's just like, "Oh, what's going on here?" And then you go up to the guy and he's just like, "What?" And it's like, Leon, you just ran away from like 8 zombies. You saw people blow up outside. This cannot be new to you. And his continuing reactions to like, "What the hell?" are ridiculously funny to me.
Okay, so what I have to first say is the canon, as established by the games, is Claire then Leon because of Resident Evil 6. You could choose to disregard that, but the way that it talks in Resident Evil 6, Claire's story happens and then Leon's happens.
Like one and then the other?
No, like that's Claire's A story from Resident Evil 2 is the canon story for Claire, and then Leon's B story is the canon story for Leon.
How much changes between the two of them? Because I've played it both ways and I didn't realize there was that big of a difference.
I think it's just where that comes from for me is with Mr. X and like the super tyrant part at the end where you shoot him with the rocket launcher and stuff.
Yeah.
and Ada and stuff that is still around after Claire has done her thing.
Well, the way
I,
the shooting Mr. X with a rocket launcher is Leon's story.
right, that's what I'm saying.
Leon's A story, I mean.
Oh,
Because
really?
because in Claire's A story, or in Claire's, because if you play it with Claire's B story, Mr. X, yeah, if you play Leon with the A story, you still fight Mr. X at the end on the elevator with the rocket launcher and stuff. That's all part of Leon's A story. And if you play Leon with the B story, he gets killed on the elevator by Birkin.
By
Birkin does.
Birkin, yeah, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
that's
So that's Leon's B story.
yeah, so that I think that reference makes it so it's something like
Leon's
that, but I've done the research and I just confirmed it because I'm pretty sure Claire A, Leon B is the canon. I mean, it doesn't matter. The game is all about what ifs, and like they released the Ghost Survivor DLC, which is what if stories for the gun shop
Well,
owner
I mean, if you want
and
to talk about
stuff.
the game forcing canon, Leon's story is the first one listed. So like, like
Oh
it
yeah, no,
seems
I mean,
like that's
I
the first
also
one they
think
want
that
you
they're
to
trying to
play.
change it with the new one.
Well, no, I mean, even in the original, Leon's story is the first one listed. So
Right.
like that would be the first one you would play if you were
And I
starting
don't
the yeah,
disagree
yeah,
with you
yeah.
on that, but based on its references from 6 to 2, because Leon is in 6, and the way it's referenced, it
Hmm.
makes it so his B story is canon,
Well,
not his A.
that's weird because I played six and I very much felt like it matched up with the canon of which I played with him being the
I
B
don't
the A.
know. I don't know. I have been watching people fight about this online for weeks, in relationship to the new game, and I'm like, the new game doesn't matter. Like, you can't think about the new game as to what is canon because even they have said this is less of a remake and more of a reboot of the series. So I
Yeah,
don't know.
The Resident Evil wiki says that Leon's Leon first, Claire second is the way that it was intended to be played, but that it works both ways. So our Resident Evil wiki puts it that way. So whatever, like, but like you said, like fans have been arguing about this for a while, but like it doesn't matter
It
because
doesn't matter. But I'm glad that we
events
got to
change
fight
at the
about it
end.
too. That's the best part. Well, because it's all memory, right? Maybe your memory is foggy. Maybe I thought I fought a tyrant
No,
on a
no,
cable car.
you definitely fight Mr. X with the
I
rocket launcher and
know
the
that
front
you
door.
do that. I know that you do it. I am being Leon misremembering. That was the character I was
Yeah,
playing.
yeah.
I know you do it because I've done it in the game, the new game. Spoilers, that still happens.
Mhm.
Also, I agree with everything you're saying about Leon, like being like, "What's happening?" I dig on the other side of that in the game that Claire is like prepared for anything that happens,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
there
Well, I mean,
and the
but
reference
there's
and the
yeah.
reference there is when Birkin shows up the second time that he shows up in the game. I don't think that's a spoiler for you because you've played the original
Yeah.
and you just referenced it when
Mhm.
he kills Mr. X.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, yeah. So that's what's weird is in Claire's story, Mr. X gets killed pretty quickly by Mr. X, right?
by
Whereas in
Birkin,
Leon's
yeah.
story, Mr. X seems to survive to the end. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But when he shows up again the second time, Claire's reaction is, I should have known you wouldn't die. And Leon's like, how the hell are you still alive? And it's just like, Leon, you're like the guy with training.
Yes.
Claire doesn't understand how to use a phone.
So I will say in terms of the storyline, Mr. X has to survive longer than the elevator where Birkin kills him in order for things to happen down in the lab
In Nest,
that are
yes.
then important later on in the rest of the Resident Evil series. So in Claire's story, when he gets killed on the elevator, that can't technically happen. And there's a lot of argument about whether or not he's actually killed or if he regenerates. We just never see it again in Claire's story because from that point on, she just fights Birkin. But in Leon's, we see him continually until basically the end. And so Leon's story has to have some merit there because like we need Mr. X to
Well, there's
survive
also the fact that there could
because
be
what he
multiple
does.
Mr. X's.
Ooh, no, there actually can't because he's actually a named person in later on in the series in the Resident
Oh,
Evil
okay. I
series.
don't know. I always felt like
Yeah,
it could just
that's
be multiple people because
no,
there's
no, because
multiple of
then
other stuff.
because then what you have, that's what makes him so important, is he's a very specific person that becomes Mr. X, and then it's the same thing with Nemesis, is that then you have a very specific thing that becomes Nemesis, which is the next thing. So yeah, so like there is not, yeah, he's one of the he's the only Tyrant 3 class. It's fucking weird.
This is
Mr. X,
great.
yeah,
You went real deep.
yeah,
Like
well, yeah,
you just
I
fixed your glasses with your words.
yeah, like it gets really fucking crazy. But Mr. X is not. First of all, is he ever called Mr. X in the game, or is that just what people colloquially call him? Like,
No,
because I know
that's what we were. That's a thing that we fought about on the stream, which is available at twitch.tv/the Say Report. Because Dale's like, why is he Mr. X? Why is that his name? And I'm like, because the model of him is Mr. X. Like, all of the detail about his character after you beat the game refers to him as Mr. X.
well, and yeah, and everybody calls him Mr. X and has forever. It's just funny to me because I feel like I think the impression there is that you're supposed to think that he's a person at some point, and you never do, right?
He's a hulking giant. What lifts a helicopter?
Yeah, exactly. When you first see him, like he pulls a helicopter out of the way. But I think the impression is supposed to be in the way that they dress him and the way that they refer to him outside of the fiction of the game is like it's this weird belief that we somehow would see him and just be like, that's a big guy. And then finally when it's revealed that he's like unkillable, that's supposed to be like again this like ooh ah moment of just like I had no idea that this guy was gonna be this big of an issue. Like, of course he is. Yeah, it's a pretty fucked up moment in the game when he shows up. But yeah, so like he definitely has to survive to the end of Leon's story in order for certain things to happen. But that being said, there's things that happen in Claire's story that also have to happen that I haven't played much of Claire's in the new one, so I don't know how far they go, but things that have to do with Sherry Birkin and the mayor's daughter and stuff like that. So
Nothing. Here's the worst part about the mayor's daughter. I
mhm.
had no clue that that's who that was in the orphanage.
I don't think that you would have a clue unless there's certain things you can read from Irons about Harris's daughter.
Yeah, like you can read that his greatest trophy will be a person. Like he has a little diary. And
Right,
then you
right.
see that person and you're like, this guy's fucking crazy.
Yeah, well, I think again, I think they're doing this thing. I don't know what it is. The makers of Resident Evil think that like the fans don't get shit or like think that they're surprising them with shit because I do think one of the DLC packs that they're putting out is specifically called The Mayor's Daughter,
It's
and I
called
think it's
Runaway. I was about to
run.
reference it.
Yeah,
As
and
soon as you play it, and I'm like, oh, that's the mayor's daughter?
yeah, right. Well, I think that the reveal at the end of it is supposed to be it's or at the beginning of it, I guess I haven't played it.
It's
It's
a what if
supposed to be this
scenario.
like
So it's like if
yeah.
she escaped from Irons before he killed her.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought it was going to be like a prequel leading up to the moment that
No, I mean that would be cool if that happened. But the way that the what if scenarios exist are Kendo, when he's about to kill himself in the gun shop, gets
right.
a call on the radio saying, I can
Oh,
get you out of there.
that's so lame. They should have built up to that moment in the gun shop. And they should have built up to the reveal that she gets killed by Irons
I
and becomes like
agree.
this like taxidermy thing by him. It's real fucking weird.
These like weird the what if I'm not very happy about the DLC. And I don't want to be another person on the internet complaining about it cuz it was free. They didn't have to give us extra stuff,
Yeah.
but I wish that they had marketed it better. Because what it really is just like the hunk or the tofu. But instead
Hmm.
of playing hunk or tofu, you're playing the gun shop owner, the mayor's daughter, and another hunk who has a broken eyepiece called Ghost. Like those are who those three people are.
Nice. So did you
And
do the fourth survivor stuff?
of course, I loved the fourth survivor. That was incredible. I
Yeah,
will
yeah.
never do it again. I am not interested in doing it again. Especially your brother is so upset. Zach is like, I got to the main hall and thought I was done. And then no, I had to keep going. And at that point, I had nothing left.
Oops.
And it's like, yeah, you gotta learn to conserve.
Welcome to Resident Evil, guys. Oh man.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's cool. But it was I'm kind of bummed that like they're not very long, those DLCs with those characters, and all of them, rather than being like the lead up to what happens to them in the game, it is, oh, what if instead of blowing his brains out, the gun shop owner was able to get out? What if instead of becoming a taxidermy doll woman, she killed Chief Irons with his knife and then ran back to Ben in the jail cell?
Right.
And the Ghost Survivor that one is like, I would be okay if there were more like that, because he's not someone we see in the actual game.
No.
He's just like a dude who happened to be there when when Ada drops the G virus sample.
Right.
He like, oh, this is what I'm here for. Thanks, God. But then he has to get out because he's at the bottom of Nest.
Right.
So it's just, I don't know. They're fun. Like, I mean, I've only really put time into Runaway, but it's not like they're things that if I complete once, I'm not going to have any incentive to play again.
Yeah.
Because there's no real story.
Right. And see, I think that's what's really disappointing to hear is because like the DLC for 7 was phenomenal because of the fact that it tied up loose ends, it added more intricate stuff to the story, it filled in gaps from the original game that the game didn't need to fill in, but the DLC did it in such a beautiful way because like you just that's so disappointing to hear that the same thing didn't happen with these ones because like I again didn't need to know much more about like what happened with that body in Iron's office, but to find out where it came from would have been really cool, and like especially because of the descent into madness with Irons and how he kind of what you learn through Chief Iron's story is how Umbrella was running that city and how they were using basically a web of just like deception and bribery and all this shit to basically do whatever they wanted in the city and turn it into a testing ground. And so like Irons is this example of that, like, and you can learn a lot about Umbrella through that. So to find out that it doesn't actually lead up to that moment but instead takes place after that moment feels like such a waste, because there's so much more to tell about Raccoon City before Leon and Claire show up, because the big thing about the two of them showing up there is that Raccoon's new to both of them. They weren't there before. They don't know what the city looked like. They don't know, like, so it's not like people like feeling like their home has been, taken over. It is once again basically just entering a haunted house, that they have no real connection to, which is fine. Like that works for Resident Evil games. It's just that you had such potential for another side of the Resident Evil mythos to talk about like this girl that grew up in Raccoon City and now it's falling down around her, right? Or like with the gun shop owner, like he owned a business in this town and how Umbrella kind of screwed over not just the people they were like bribing and manipulating, but also this entire city of people. Like it's sad to hear that because of how monumentally cool the DLC was for Resident Evil 7 and how much it worked with the lore that already existed and actually expanded on it. To find that the Resident Evil 2 stuff is just throwaway is sad.
And now I understand. I'm happy to hear that the 7 stuff was more substantial, because it explains where this like anger at what they gave to Resident Evil 2 is coming from.
Yeah.
Because the way they marketed it, they made it sound like it was 3 new storylines to better understand Raccoon City.
Yeah.
And if that existed, if there was a precedent of that being what the games were going to be, which it sounds like Resident Evil 7 did, I understand getting 3 new Fourth Survivor maps basically would upset people.
And like like you're saying, like it was free DLC, and DLC is never something that's like owed to people. But you're right, in the terms of like the marketing aspect, that's where they kind of shot themselves in the foot, because I up until this point, thought that the whole point was to expand on the story of Resident Evil 2, not to ignore it. And yeah, man, all I can say is if you ever play Resident Evil 7, like do yourself a favor and play at least there's 2 or 3 of the DLC. I think they put out 5 altogether. There's 2 or 3 of them that are just so just good at like building on the story and telling you what happens. Yeah, man, like one of the DLC for 7 was just important, and that's probably where that comes from.
All right. So before we end it, I just want to say one thing about Resident Evil 2. And like
Hmm.
I give you a little crap about being afraid, like too afraid to play.
Yeah.
But I was streaming, right? And we're joking while we're playing it because it's like watching a schlocky horror film. It's just
Hmm.
that one of you is in the driver's seat,
Right, right.
right? To stream that game. Like it felt like a good game to test that whole area with.
Yep.
And that's why I did it. But then I would get to a room with like a liquor and they'd still be joking. I'm like, you guys need to shut the fuck up. Because like, and Dale like, he can't hear us. And I'm like, we don't know that. We don't know. We need to be quiet so I can walk through here without drawing attention to myself.
Well, and plus you need to be able to hear the clicks, man. Like they gotta shut up because you gotta listen for that shit.
Yeah, like it's like everybody needs to shut the hell up right now. And that is the first one. I wish we used a crappy mic the first time because we wanted to test that mic to see if it would be sufficient or if we should like set up the Yeti for like the room. We ended up using the Yeti. It worked way better. But I get to the first liquor encounter, which I don't know. Did you get to that at least in Resident Evil 2? Or
No.
Okay.
But you mean the one on the ceiling, right?
The one
I
on
know.
the ceiling, yeah.
Yeah.
So Dale had only ever seen the one that like skitters by the window
Right.
on the third floor, which you
Nice.
saw because you got to the library. You
Right.
both got as you and Dale got to the same end point, which is hilarious to me.
Yeah.
But so she had seen that and she like, what is that? So then when I get to the liquor in the hallway, I like shine my flashlight. I'm like, that's what that was, Dale. That's what that was. And I'm like, and it's okay. Like, I don't feel bad messing around with it because like that's a scripted event. It can't hurt you. And then it jumped down and killed me, proving that like the internet is always wrong. Because everyone on the internet is like, no, the first time you meet the liquor, it is to introduce it as a threat. It can't hurt you. Oh, it can hurt you.
It could definitely hurt you. Yeah,
I'm
man.
just like,
Even well, I guess I'm trying to remember. I guess in the original, I guess it's scripted because what you do is you find it chewing somebody's head off, and then it skitters into like a vent or something. I think that's. I'm pretty sure that's what happens in the original.
yeah,
too,
that's what
yeah.
happens in the newer one too. Is it is above the thing, it shoots its tongue down, rips the dude's head off, and chews on it.
Yeah.
And like, okay, so it's occupied, and it's just to show you there's a reason we call them liquors,
Hmm.
and they're motherfuckers scary.
Yeah, man, and especially in the new engine, I can only imagine what they must look like the gross like sliminess of them. Because man, they looked gross even back in when they were
Yeah.
just polygons.
Exactly. So then I'm like, yeah, so it's cool. So I'll show that off, and then like I'll start to get scared of them after this scene. Nope. Because what it then does is it runs towards the thing that connects to the library in that same hallway, the way the station is built. I don't know if that's what it was in the original game. So that you can do whatever you want in the STARS office, but if you continue the way it went, you're either going to get attacked or you're going to have read the thing that says they can only base on sound. So if you're quiet,
so,
they don't
yeah,
notice
go-
you.
Right, exactly. So if you go nice and slow, you're okay. Oh man.
But yeah, to have that guy, which up to that point I was convinced was a scripted event, and then he ran away, leap at me was frightening, especially as the words coming out of my mouth are, and it's cool because this thing can't hurt, and I'm dead. He just murdered me.
Yep. Yeah, man. There was so many moments like that for me where I was just like, I remember this slightly. It was like deja vu. So I was like, I think I remember if I go through this door, there's gonna be a dude on the other side. Oh shit, there's 5 dudes on the other side. Run, run, run.
Yeah, that running, I love it. You know what it reminds me of? Like, really reminds me of? Is Dead Rising 2. Because, and that comes from Zach saying, well, like, Devon and I have played these type of games before, so we're, like, prepared for that. And I'm like, I haven't played a Resident Evil, but I did play Dead Rising 2.
Yeah.
Which, even though it's not as focused on, like, the survival element,
Yeah.
you still need to, like, conserve your inventory.
Well, and the big thing about the Dead Rising games that they took from Resident Evil is the idea that you're never going to have enough ammo to kill everybody. So
Right.
don't bother killing everybody.
Well,
right?
especially, but in that it's a mall full of people.
Right,
It's
right,
not like, oh, there were 30 people on at the police station when this happened.
right.
It's so good. I love the game. And this is probably going to be the last we talk about it. So if you've like been sick of the Resident Evil talk, this is the end.
Yeah.
And also, we need to address one other thing. We didn't do an Oscar like episode. The Oscars are in 2 days.
Oh, did you
And
like Oscar picks and all that sort of stuff?
yeah, and like I don't feel bad about that. I don't
Well,
this is like the first year I don't think I'm going to watch the Oscars.
I mean, so they announced that they're not going to have a host, and all that sort of stuff. And on top of that, there was a bunch of weirdness at the beginning with like, are we going to have this category? Or are we not going to have this category? They also just did another thing where they were like, certain categories are only going to be during the commercials, or no, never mind, we're not going to do those categories at all. No, wait, we'll do those categories, and they'll have a whole section. It's very weird. Like they have not been able to get their act together. So I think that's part of the reason why we haven't bothered to get our act together. It's not because we like have been ignoring it or anything. It's just that like we don't even know what's going to happen that night yet. So we just haven't focused on it.
I also have been ignoring it. I understand where Siege is coming from, saying that he hasn't been, but usually like this time of year, from when the announcement comes of what the movies are to the Oscars, I make it like a personal goal to go see everything. And
Yeah,
this year, as an A-list member at AMC, I could have attended marathons where they showed all of the Best Picture movies.
yeah,
Like I had like a pre-reservation to do that.
yeah.
I don't care about movies the same way I
Right.
did
See, I don't think
after
ignoring it is.
2018. Ignoring is the wrong word.
That's what I mean. Is like ignoring it would mean that like we didn't pay attention to it at all. It's just that like it's not worth like it's not worth trying to figure out what they're doing yet because every time you look at them, they're doing something different. So it's not ignoring them. It's just waiting for them to get their shit together so that we like because I'm ready. The second that they actually figure out what the night's going to look like, and I mean, I'm interested to see what happens with the no host thing. I know you said that you're probably not going to watch, but like I'm gonna dip in. I'm gonna definitely see what the night looks like. So yeah, that's what I mean. Ignoring is just not quite like the right way to put it because it's almost like there's nothing to ignore just yet.
Can you name another Best Picture nominee besides Black Panther right now?
uh, why'd you do that to me? Black Klansman is on that list too,
Oh,
right?
okay, yes, okay, so that's good. I think maybe Born to Be a Star and Bohemian Rhapsody are both nominated too.
A Star is Born, you mean? Bohemian Rhapsody is definitely
Yeah,
nominated. That's
Born to
where
Be
the
a Star is
controversy.
what I call it. I don't know why.
Especially because it's like a fifth version of that movie.
It's the fourth.
Like,
It's the fourth time it's been made in 80 years.
yeah, but that's what I mean. It's like it's not like it's a brand new IP that like you're just not quite sure what the name of it is. Like it's something that's been in movie history for a while.
Yeah, about that. But yeah, it's just like
Um,
one of those where I'm like, at this point, I'd be like, I saw all of them. I really liked this one that probably a lot of people didn't see. Call Me by
I will say,
Your Name was so good.
yeah, yeah. I will say one of the big Oscar things that I have definitely been paying attention to is the the Oscar nominated short that got like a bunch of controversy. The one all about Nazism in 1930s New York, and
Yeah,
about how the fact that there was like a straight up Nazi rally in 1930s New York, basically in support of Hitler. It's Oscar nominated. On top of that, what it was that Fox News refused to show a preview for it, even though they had bought airtime and I don't know, like why they were like we're not going to show this because it supports Nazism, despite the fact the whole point is about like anti-fascism, but of the documentary, I mean, but the entire
you
short
don't
is
show
available on
people your
Vimeo.
cards, CJ. You don't. You, you don't say, "Here's the playbook."
Yeah, we're not, yeah. But the entire short is actually available on Vimeo, or at least was up until this recording. So I don't know if that'll remain the case. I think that they really want people to see it, so I don't think they're too worried about it being up available online. But yeah, the entire thing was available on Vimeo up to this point. So check it out.
Very cool. All right, so I think that we've talked long enough, but I did want to address the reason why we didn't do a big thing is I don't know what's happening with the Oscars. I'm surprised they're Sunday.
Yeah.
That's the truest thing I can say. And that's because I set them to tape long ago. And then I'm like, oh shoot, the Oscars are taping on Sunday. Huh.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and when I'm gonna be at work, they'll probably be on one of the many TVs at work, so I'll see pieces of it. And like I said, I'm gonna dip in and out of it because I am interested to see how they handle the no host thing. Honestly, I don't think it's gonna be as big of an issue as it appeared to be when they first announced it. Because if you look back over the last few years, like the handing off of jokes and all this sort of stuff, the the host was really more kind of getting in the way than anything else, it seemed like.
Yeah, this is probably going to set the standard for what other Oscars look like, because the host segments, that right there is 40 minutes that they just cut out of a show they're trying to save time on.
Yeah. A Night at the Garden, by the way, is the name of that documentary. I wanted
Cool.
to make sure that I got that out there. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, so it's also Thursday. The last Thursday of the month is happening. So we have a very special episode coming for you. They're crossovers with Say Report Jr. I know for a fact Zach and I recorded ours last night because I'm taking advantage of the illness.
Nice.
And that Dale said that she was going to be in contact with you to try to record sometime before next Thursday.
Yep.
So look for those crossovers where we talk to the other. That's really just the best way to say it. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
No,
Dale and I are getting her shit together. It's funny you said that, and I thought I should check my phone, and sure enough, I have some contacts from her. So we'll get that sorted right after this. But yeah.
Excellent. So in the meantime, if you want to talk to me about the Oscars, you can find me on Twitter at Devon D. Decker.
All right, and you can find me at Siege versus the World, and talk to me a little bit more about Resident Evil. But yeah, man. Because man, Mr. X. I got to go back and look at the Tyrant lore on that because at some point there's a reveal of other Tyrant 3 classes, but it's like a reveal that there's more than one of them. So I got to figure that out. Talk to me about Resident Evil lore. Hit me up.
All right. So until next time, we're going to send it over to Will, who already knows how all of this ends.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Stephen Selwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.